North America's largest developer of dollar stores. Over 4,600 stores opened since 1993. For more information, visit our website at dollarstoreservices.com.
My name is John LaFronz. I'm the General Manager here at Dollar Store Services. I've been here for just under 20 years. It'll be 20 years in January. I have been in the discount retail industry basically my entire life. Since I was about 20 years old, I've worked for discount retailers. I've done overseas buying. I've been a domestic buyer. I've owned my own stores. And for the last 20 years, I've been here at Dollar Store Services helping folks just like you learn more about getting into this exciting business and helping you do so if you decide to take that next step. Dollar Store Services is the largest developer, of independently owned retail stores in North America. We've opened over 4,600 stores since 1993, and we do stores nationwide and actually around the globe. We've done stores in the Middle East, we've done stores in Central America, we've done stores in the continent of Africa, and many other places as well. So we can do stores here in the U.S., and we can also execute stores around the country, or around the globe rather. Our store development process is very comprehensive. Consists of 7 key services, and I'll outline them quickly and we'll talk for a couple of minutes about each one. We offer 7 key services designed to get you in business as quickly and as efficiently as possible to really understand your business. We offer financing assistance. We offer site location assistance. Together with you, we negotiate your lease agreement. Then once your lease is signed, we do the complete store setup. We provide all of the labor, the store fixtures and equipment, all the interior signage, an allowance towards the cost of the outdoor sign, and of course all the inventory. You become part of our merchandise network where you can save 20 to 25% on merchandise just by being part of our network. You get complete training prior to us actually setting up your store. Good evening, welcome. And then once you're open, you get the best long-term support in our industry. We stay with you for the life of your business. For the first 120 days, we're on the phone with you basically every day, helping you place replenishment orders, getting ready for every season and holiday, helping you source product. Everything we possibly do, give you operational information. We assess your store, see how it's producing, see what recommendations we can make to help you do even better. And that goes on intensively for the first 4 months. After that, if the store is on the right track and you feel comfortable, we move your store to a long-term coordinator's desk, and that person continues to provide that same support, but on a less intense basis. That person may reach out to you several times a week, but it's always available to you at any time for anything that you might need assistance with. So that, very briefly, that's the capital of services that we provide. If you do decide to go forward at some point, it starts with a simple application and 100% fully refundable deposit of $500. That gets you into our finance department, and you will know within 48 hours if you qualify for funding, and if so, what level of funding you do qualify for, and what the terms of those loans can be. And then you can make the decision as to whether or not you decide to go forward. We have a lot of different lenders that can address basically all credit profiles, everything from business lines of credit to fixed rate, fixed term loans to 401k and IRA rollovers. If you decide to go the SBA route, which is good for lots of people, it is a long process and there are a lot of heavy requirements. But if you decide to do that, we can help you with the business plan and things that you would need to pursue that type of loan. And as I say, we have lenders to address virtually every credit profile. We have a new lender that we just brought online a couple of months ago, and that one is very exciting because they can, where before a lot of lenders, you had to have a credit score of about 700, 720, and you had to have very clean credit, or you had to go back and if you had some lates or things like this, some bumps and bruises on your credit, you would have to clean those up before they could consider you. So this lender can work with those bumps and bruises, and if you have a credit score of 680, if you have some dings on your credit, they seem to be able to work around them and get funding, and they've been very, very successful, especially working with people that some of our other lenders could not assist. They were able to get them in line to open a store. So very exciting. As I say, if you do decide to go forward, your application comes into finance, and you'll know within 48 hours what you qualify for, how much, and what the terms are. So that's finance. If you decide to go forward once you've secured your funding, then we move you into our site location real estate department. And there, we assign you to a site locator and a leasing manager. And they will work with you directly. They're here in our office. We don't farm that out. And they will identify every location that's available in the size range that you're looking to develop in the area that you want your store to be in. Then we eliminate all the sites or all the spaces that don't meet our criteria. Maybe there's a competitor too close, or shopping centers kind of run down. It's not a good environment or not a safe environment. And maybe the asking rents are so high that we know we're not going to be able to negotiate to an acceptable level for you. Then all the spaces that remain, we upload into a proprietary website that we have. It's called EasyTrack. We developed it ourselves many years ago. And you will have full access to that website, and you will be able to see all the information about every location that we would like you to take a look at. Population, traffic, who the competitors are, where they are, the household income, maps of the shopping center, maps showing the competition so you can see where they're located, and much other demographic type information. So you will know everything there is to know about each one of those locations. We ask you to visit those locations because you may see things that are not easily visible to us. For example, is the shopping center well maintained? Is it well lit at night? Overall, is it a safe environment for you to have a store in? And then you give that feedback to us. If you have interest in the location, we have you get inside. We make an appointment for you to get inside and view the location and get us some interior photos and so forth, so we know what we have to negotiate for. Does it need new flooring? Does it need a new ceiling? Things of that nature. Are the restrooms ADA compliant? That's really, really important. And so that's how the site process works. And as we together identify spaces that you have interest in, we negotiate on them. And typically we will negotiate on several locations, 2, 3, 4, for a number of reasons, but primarily to make sure that we have a good feel for the rents in the area, and often we can use one location as a little bit of a lever against a landlord at another location that we like more to drive the rent down. So it's and at the end you'll have several good business decisions, several good locations rather, from which to make a good business decision for you, and we'll help you compare and contrast each one of those against the other. So if we get to that point, we've identified a location or several that you like, then we get into the lease negotiation process. And the leasing manager that's been assigned to work with you, they typically negotiate in the area of 100 retail leases every year. So they're very, very skilled, especially with regards to leases for our business. They know exactly what to look for. They know what to avoid. Every one of our lease negotiations starts with a letter of intent that has over 17 key provisions. And the letter of intent is our first offer to the landlord for you that says, we're interested in your space. You're asking X in rent. We believe that the space is worth this. This is what we're offering. This is how we want you to deliver the space to us. We want fresh paint. We want flooring if it needs flooring. We want the ceiling redone if it needs to be redone, and things of that nature. We want a stock room. But most importantly, the provisions that we negotiate for are all designed to protect you. For example, one of the key ones is making sure that the landlord provides an ADA compliant restroom. And what that means is that it is handicapped accessible and satisfies the requirements of the Americans with Disabilities Act. The doors are wide enough to have wheelchair access. There are grab rails, and the proper plumbing fixtures are in place, the commodes and the sink and so on. Because if they're not, and the city or the county comes in when they do their pre-opening inspection, they say, you know, Mr. Brown, this restroom isn't compliant. You're going to have to retrofit it. That can cost $10,000 or $15,000. So we want to make sure that the landlord, if that needs to be done, that the landlord's doing that work and not you. Other provisions we negotiate for are no relocation. We don't want a landlord to be able to come back to you 3 months or 6 months into your lease and you say, you know, I've got another tenant that wants this space here that's really, really visible, so I'm going to move you to the end of the shopping center, okay? If you don't have that no relocation clause, the landlord certainly can do that. So we want to protect you from having that happen. You know, if you sign a lease for a specific space, we want you to stay in that space. Now, if the landlord comes to and wants to offer you a better space, then that becomes a decision for you. But the landlord can't do it with that clause in place without your agreeing to do so. One other one that's important is a dark clause. And what the dark clause means is that if you select a location and maybe there's a Target store in that center, and you like the center because Target is bringing a lot of business to that center, lots of traffic. If that Target closes or moves, all of a sudden your center isn't the same center that you signed on for, that you agreed to sign a lease for. So now that tenant is dark, that Target store is dark. So with that dark clause in place, we negotiate an out for you. We also negotiate a reduced rent if you choose to stay there at a lesser rent or at no rent. And that's an important clause to get into your lease. So we seek to do that virtually every time. And that's just a few of the 17 provisions that we always negotiate into our leases. And again, they're all designed to protect you. So now we've talked about the lease. There are usually several rounds of proposals and counter proposals to get to the final terms that we agree on with you and that the landlord can agree on as well. You get to that point, you like the terms and conditions of the lease, you like the location, we have them draft a final lease. We review it with you to make sure you're fully understanding everything that's in that lease. And then if so, you sign the lease. At that point, now we're ready to get the gears in motion to set up your store. So now there are a lot of things that are happening. First, you're going to be talking to our trainer and our merchandise manager, and that person is going to have an initial conversation with you, get all the training materials to you. We train online, and you can do it at your own speed, at your own pace, and then have follow-up conversations with the trainer on any things that you need to talk more about or maybe perhaps aren't quite clear to you, and there's always some of those things, and that's fine. And of course, we also present you all the information about all the suppliers in our network. And we'll talk about which ones are best suited for your store depending on where you are. Also, you're going to be talking to our operations manager at that point in time because he is going to actually be scheduling the store setup for you. He'll be coordinating time and date with you and the landlord. If the landlord has some work to do, of course, we have to wait till that work is going to be done. And then we schedule our crew to come out and set up your store. At that point now your training is done, and we're ready to arrive at your store and start putting it together. That process is actually very exciting. It takes us about 7 days from start to finish. We arrive usually on a Sunday evening. Our store setup supervisor will meet with you at the site, get a set of keys from you, walk the space with you one more time. Then Monday morning the store fixtures and equipment start arriving. Our crew is there to unload and start setting everything up, putting the counters in place, setting the checkout, getting the interior signage up, and so forth. Monday afternoon or Tuesday, the merchandise starts arriving, and again, our crew is there. They're receiving the merchandise. They're setting it up as it comes in. So usually by the end of day Friday or Saturday latest, your store is 100% ready to open. And the store setup supervisor will review the cash handling operation one more time with you, though you've already done it in training, to make sure it's fresh in your mind. And it's good that you can be at the store setup as much as possible because there are a lot of things you can learn. You can learn why we display merchandise in a certain way, where the merchandise comes from, because you're going to see it coming in the back door from the different suppliers. You know, it's different than reading about it, actually seeing it, saying, oh yeah, hardware comes from supplier B, and I see the housewares comes from supplier C, and there's a lot of good learning that can happen. So the more you can be there during that week, the better it is for you. So at the end of that week, you are 100% ready to open, and you're in business. Now, because you're developing a store with us, you also have access to our merchandise program, which is kind of at the heart of what we do, and we'll talk about that for just a minute. Number one, we have over 80 suppliers located around the country. So no matter where your store is, the delivery times once you place an order are going to be short, and freight costs will be as low as possible. We don't want you to have to buy merchandise just from a website or just from a catalog. So as part of our process, we visit each of our suppliers once a month. I do a lot of the traveling myself, and the owner of our company does a good portion of it as well. And we meet with our suppliers at their warehouses. We review the best new items that they have available. And if we like them and the quality is good and the packaging is good, then we negotiate the prices on those items. And if we can get to an acceptable price on an item that we believe in terms of the quality and the packaging, then we'll present that item to you for your consideration. If we don't like the item, or the packaging is bad, or the quality of the product is such that it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, you'll never see that item from us. It's very important to evaluate merchandise in person. You can't do it looking at a picture, because you want to know that the item does what it's supposed to do. If it's a screwdriver, it should not come apart when you try and put a screw in. If it's a kitchen towel, it should be thick and thirsty. It shouldn't be like a paper towel. So you have to feel and handle those things to really understand the quality of that particular item. So that's what we do, and then we present that information to you each and every week, and you get lots of new information on product each and every week. As I said, the cost of merchandise is negotiable, and the best time to do it is when you're sitting across from the supplier with the item in your hand, and so that's what we do. There are three key components to a good merchandise system, and they are value, variety, and new merchandise. And we seek to deliver those three items to you with every single piece of merchandise that we offer to you. How do we provide value? By doing what I just described. We hand select each item, we negotiate the prices, we make sure that it's an item that we would want you to have in your store, and then we present those items to you. Variety, we deliver variety to you in a number of different ways, and this is important. Number one, as I said, we've got many suppliers scattered around the country. That's a big advantage for you, because many of them will provide freight guarantees or freight caps, and what that means is that if you're in Chicago, the other independent store owners located around you, they don't have the benefit of that merchandise network, so they can only buy from suppliers in their immediate area in Chicago. So what they can offer to their customers is kind of limited. You, on the other hand, in addition to being able to buy from all the suppliers in Chicago and the best ones and at a better price than your competitor, you can also buy from suppliers in Southern California, from suppliers in Houston, from suppliers on the East Coast, because you can afford to bring that product in because of those freight caps, those freight guarantees, and the lower negotiated prices that we're providing to you. So you can have incredible variety in your store. You can have items that no other competitor in your area is able to have because they just can't afford to have them. It's a huge advantage for you. The other thing that's key to a merchandise program in terms of variety is the fact that in our business, most merchandise comes in what's known as a master carton. And what that means is that if you were to order pizza cutters, they typically would come in a carton of 72 or 144 pieces of that one item. It's a lot of pizza cutters. It's a lot of any item. What our suppliers typically will do for you, because our stores do so much business with them, they will sell you a portion of that carton. It's called an interpack. So instead of having to buy 72 or 144 of those pizza cutters, you can buy 12 or 24. That does two things for you. It makes sure that when that item comes in, it all goes out on your shelf or all goes out on the wall, number one. Number two, you have a lot of advantage in turning over inventory because you're selling and rebuying that 12 or 24 pieces probably 5-6 times a year. So turnover generates profit. All your inventory is right there on the shelf or the wall. The third thing that does, and this is key, because you don't have to buy all those other pizza cutters, for that same amount of investment that you're going to spend on that one big carton of pizza cutters, you can buy 5 or 6 other items, 12 or 24 pieces of each, and have a greatly expanded variety of products in your store with no more inventory investment, and that's a big advantage. The last thing that our merchandise system does for you in terms of variety and value is that because we negotiate those prices for you, you will find that most often you're going to pay 20 to 25% less per item than you would as an individual going into those same suppliers not being part of that network. So taking that a step further, if you were to buy $300,000 in inventory next year at cost, By being part of our network, you could conceivably save $60,000 to $75,000, and that's additional profit to you. It goes right to the bottom line, just because you're in our network. It's a big part of our merchandise program and very, very important to you. The last leg of a merchandise system is new merchandise, and I can't stress this too much either. New merchandise is the engine that pulls your train, so to speak. And what I mean by that is when I go into your store, I have a list of items that I want to buy, just like you do when you go shopping, no different. So maybe I'm coming to your store, I'm going to buy paper towels, I'm going to buy toilet tissue, bag of chips, maybe some shampoo and conditioner. That's my list. And those are the items that I buy pretty regularly. They're consumable type items. They get used up, I buy them again and again. So now I'm in your store and I grab my basket and I'm wandering around and I pick up my 6 or 7 items that I came in there to buy. My needs are satisfied. So now I start to look around a little bit, and maybe I see, this time of year, I'll see a nice set of Christmas placemats, 4 placemats, and I'll see a man-made chamois that I can use to wash my car, and some toys for my grandkids. And so I picked those things up and put them in my cart. I didn't go there to buy them, but I could see that the perceived value was very good, and they were attractive to me, and so I bought them. So I get to the checkout, and that $6 or $7 transaction that I planned on having in your store now is $10 or $12 or $15, because now I'm buying items that I didn't know I needed, but again, the perceived value was so good that I saw them and I made that buying decision. Now, when I come back to your store in a week or two, I do need to replenish some of those consumable items. I probably need more paper towels. I probably need more toilet tissue and such as that. I don't need the placemats because I still have them. They didn't get used up. I don't need the man-made chamois. Still have it. And I don't need the toys for my grandkids. I got them. But show me something new in auto care or in housewares or in the toy department, and now I'm a customer again. And that's why it's so important that you always have something new in your store when people come back. It's like putting on a show, but your audience is always the same. So you got to give them something they haven't seen before. It's so important, and that builds your average sale. It builds your profit, and most often we suggest that you don't rebuy those new items unless they're an incredibly good item, because what you want to do is sell through them, and then when your customer comes back in a week or two, and maybe they didn't decide to buy those placemats, they're going to defer that decision. So they come back in and they say, Mr. Brown, I saw that set of 4 placemats and I really like them, but I didn't pick them up. Where are they? I want to get them today. You're going to say, unfortunately, it was a one-time deal. We get buys like that all the time. They come in, they're great values, and then they're gone. So if you see something you like, make sure you pick it up right then, because it may not be around in a week or two. So what you're doing right away, even without that conversation, you're educating your customer that if I see something I like in the store, I better buy it right now. So that it creates a sense of urgency on the part of your customers to make those buying decisions. And the new merchandise does all of that for you. And, of course, as I said, builds your average sale, builds your profit. Last component of our 7-key step program is the long-term support, and we touched on that earlier. We stay in contact with your store for the life of your business very intensively for the first 3 to 4 months, and then after that on a regular basis weekly. But, of course, we are always available to you at any time at all for any questions that you might have, any assistance that we can provide, of course, as well. I just want to say very briefly, I want to remind you all, and I'm sure you know, but if you do decide to go forward and do so by next Wednesday, there is an incentive. There is an incentive of $1,000 in free merchandise that you can take advantage of when you open your store just by being part of our meeting this evening. So that's important to you. If you do decide to go forward, do it by Wednesday. Take advantage of that. Now what I'd like to do is talk for just a couple of minutes about what's going on in the industry. And I know everybody sees the news. Everybody reads the papers. Still have papers, I think. I'm an older guy. I always read the paper. I'm always happy to get yesterday's news today. But I also watch the news. So what's going on in the dollar store industry? Well, we're out of the pandemic. There's rumbles about these variants, but they don't seem to be very impactful. During the pandemic last year, sadly, a lot of businesses, typical businesses, did not survive, more traditional businesses. Dollar stores did extremely well. In fact, dollar stores did better than ever during the pandemic because, A, dollar stores were allowed to stay open virtually everywhere. They were considered to be essential businesses. And B, we had the products that people needed and wanted most and that they couldn't get in their traditional retail stores like grocery stores and even a lot of the drug chains. You know, they needed sanitizers, they needed masks, they needed cleaning supplies, all the types of things the grocery shelves were empty of, our stores had. And were able to continually get them throughout the pandemic. And people found that not only did we have those most needed items, we had them at the lowest prices around. So people that had never shopped at a dollar store before did so, and they have stayed. Every survey that I've seen says that more and more people that had never shopped at a dollar store in the past are doing so now on a regular basis because they like what they saw. They like what they found. There's a survey that was done about 6 months ago of grocery store customers, and a couple of questions really interesting. The first one was they asked, do you feel that during the pandemic your grocery store price gouged you? And overwhelming majority, almost 80% said, yeah, I believe that they did. Prices jumped way up, and I wasn't real happy about that. And then the other question that they asked them was, what are the most important things to you when you shop? And no big surprise, it was price and it was convenience. So it's kind of like a perfect storm for dollar stores. We don't price gouge. We have the lowest prices on virtually every item that we sell, number one. Number two, we do have that incredible variety. Our stores are convenient to shop in. People can get in and out quickly. The average visit in a dollar store is about 20 minutes, and people can do all their shopping. And you see more and more people, they go to the dollar store, they buy everything on their list that they can buy in a dollar store. Then they go to the grocery store to finish their shopping. It's happening more and more. Very interesting. I watch customers go in and out of stores all the time. Other great things that are happening right now, going back to the pandemic comment for a minute, because a lot of those businesses sadly did not survive, there are great locations available, and landlords are looking for good quality tenants. And they're looking for tenants that don't have to close should another pandemic show its face 5 or 10 years down the road. They know that dollar stores are pandemic proof. So our business is very attractive to a lot of landlords. Other good things that are happening, you know, unemployment is down, consumer spending is up. There's a little inflation bumping up against us right now, but I understand that, you know, all the indicators are that that's going to correct itself in the next few months, so that's great news as well. Dollar Tree, I'm sure we all saw in the news, Dollar Tree has gone to, it was going to $1.25 on a great portion of their merchandise. That makes our stores more competitive than ever with Dollar Tree. Whether you do a dollar only store or a dollar plus store or 1, 2, 3 store, and we do several different types of formats like that. We do a dollar only store. We do a 1, 2, 3 store where everything is priced at $3 or less, and about half the store, a little bit more, is $1. And then we do a dollar plus store, which is very much like a Family Dollar or Dollar General. But in our dollar plus stores, we have many more items that sell for $1. I know if you go into a Dollar General or a Family Dollar, you have to work really hard to find items that sell for $1. We have a wide range of them in our stores. So no matter what store format you decide to develop, and we help you make that decision once we get into the site location process, because we find locations based on the competition, the demographics, and other factors, household income, and so on, we can make recommendations to you as to what might be the best store format in a particular location. And then we talk about those advantages, and I usually have those conversations with our owners, and then together we decide what the best direction is to take, and off we go. So all of those things have greatly enhanced the value and the excitement around dollar stores right now. It's a booming industry, over $60 billion last year. I think this year we'll probably be pushing mid-60s in the billions of dollars in business. Interesting side note, for 2021, there were more dollar-type stores opened, chains, independents, you name it, than every other retailer combined. So if you took all the drugstores are open, all the big box stores are open, all the electronic stores are open, and so on, and added them all together, they didn't meet the number of dollar stores that opened this year. So it's an incredible time to get into this business. People love our stores. They love the value, and again, it's a great time to get into our business. So with all of that, what I'd like to do is kind of open it up to questions. And again, if you have a question, please just unmute your phone and introduce yourself with your first name and where you're from. And I'm excited to hear your questions.
Hi, Don. My name is Franny, and I'm coming from New York. Thank you so much for hosting this meeting. I just have a few questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, all of that sounds great, right? For the people that are sort of new to being entrepreneurs and new to owning their own business in a way via a franchise, what are the franchise fees? Well, I have a couple questions, and I'll just ask all of them now.
Okay,
that
go ahead.
People can ask. What are the franchise fees? What happens if sales within the first month aren't as projected? Who staffs the store? Does the franchisee does that, or do you guys help us with that? And if so, where does the payroll come from?
Okay, all good questions. And the first one, I want to thank you for asking, because I forgot to mention the fact, and if my owner hears this, I'll be your staff pretty soon. No, just kidding. But we are not a franchise, so there are no franchise fees. There are no royalties ever. The only thing you ever pay to our company is the one-time package price that's published on our website to set up your store, and that varies based on the size store, but they're all published there on the website. You never pay us again. No franchise fees, no royalties, no advertising fund, none of that. So that's question one. Second question was, what happens if your sales are not quite as projected in the early months? And what I can tell you is that first, excuse me, when we negotiate your lease, we're always going to negotiate for a number of months of free rent, sometimes 2, 3, 4 months of free rent. And we do that for two reasons. One, to allow you some time for your store to get off the ground without having to pay that burden of rent. It's a big, big advantage. Because then all you're really doing is paying your utilities and your labor, and that's kind of it. But what I will say is that unlike many other types of businesses, dollar stores are kind of unique in this regard, and I'll tell you what I want to say is that most businesses, when you open a store, first people have to see you. They have to know that you're there. Then they have to understand what your business is. Then they have to have a need for what your business can provide to them, service or product or whatever. With a dollar store, number one, we negotiate for a very good location, so visibility is never an issue. People are going to see you right away. Number two, and more importantly, everybody understands your business. Everybody knows what a dollar store is. It's like a Hershey bar. Everybody understands it. And three, they need your product today, whenever today is. So the time it takes to establish a dollar-type store business is very, very short, very, very short. The key to all of it is having a good location. We work very hard to get that for you. And then keep in mind you've got that advantage of any number of months of not having to pay rent and really just rebuying the merchandise that you're selling, paying some labor. The last question that you had was regarding staffing, and we can help you hire to a degree. We always want that to be the responsibility of the owner because you're going to work with those people. You want to be comfortable with them. But we provide you with ads that you can place. Usually most of our stores advertise on Craigslist because it basically doesn't cost anything and it's widespread. You can also hire from community organizations that you might belong to or churches that you're affiliated with. Those are always good resources. We, as part of our training, there's a pretty extensive human resources component, and in that we go through all of those activities. You know, how to screen, how to hire, what type of person you want, what their skill set should be, and then everything else that goes along with a good human resources program. So that's all in our training for you. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. And what was your name again? Was it Rainey? I didn't get it all. I'm sorry.
Rainey.
Got it.
It's,
all right.
Thank you.
Got it. Very good. Thank you. Good questions all. I appreciate it. Next question?
Yes. Hello, my name's Kevin. Can you hear me?
Yes, Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah. So since it's not a franchise, is that do we pick our own name of our own store? First question. And second question, after we're approved, what's the process like? How did it get started?
Okay, very good. Again, good questions. To answer your first question, yes, you do choose your own name. I have a list of names that have been either used or considered over the years, and I can always provide that to you. And it's a good thing to brainstorm from, even if you don't select one of those names. People are pretty creative. But yeah, you choose your own name, and then we just make sure that you research it with the Secretary of State in your state to make sure that that name isn't being used by someone else. And then it's yours. You just register it, and you've got that name forever. As far as the process, once you go through finance and you've secured your funding, you move into real estate, as I mentioned earlier. That part of the process, the real estate finance is relatively short. It can be about 2 weeks to get to securing the funding and creating whatever paperwork you have to create. Once you get into real estate, usually that process takes about 30 to 45 days, Kevin, and it's the one part of the process that we don't like to hurry, because we want to make sure that we see everything that is available in terms of locations. We don't want to, you may find a location that you like on day 5, which is great, but we're going to continue to look while we're negotiating in that space to make sure that there's nothing else out there that might be more attractive. So from start to finish in real estate, probably about 30 days, as I say, maybe a little bit longer. And from that point, it's really determined by the condition of the space. Is it move-in ready, or does the landlord have work to do, and how long is that work going to take? But, good rule of thumb, say a week to 2 weeks in finance, call it 30 to 40 days in real estate, and if the landlord has some work to do, maybe another 2 or 3 weeks on top of that, and we're there and we open your store in a week. So 2.5 months, probably a pretty good estimate from start to finish.
Awesome. Do they have a truck that comes in and sets all that up, or is that something you hire somebody to do?
Well, we have our own store setup supervisors, and we come to your location. We hire local labor. They work directly for us. And then the fixture company ships in all the fixtures and equipment, and then the individual suppliers ship the product directly to your store, and we're there to receive it and set it all up.
Oh, awesome. Thanks.
You bet. Thank you very much. Good questions, Kevin.
I have one more question. It's Rainey again.
Yes.
And I do have the PDF that you sent, but I have to read it more thoroughly.
Okay.
Well, all of this sounds great. I'm reading that owners of the stores, they keep 100% of profits, right?
Yes.
There is no free lunch, right? So I want to understand, how do you guys benefit? How does the company benefit from that?
Okay, good question.
Because there has to be something that you guys get, right?
Oh, sure. Well, yeah.
If it's not franchise fees, there has to be something.
No, that's a good question, and I always joke. I always say I'm always happy that people are so concerned about our well-being, and I appreciate that. But just joking. But the fact is, we develop a lot of stores in the course of a year, and we make a small profit on each store that we develop. And that's been our business model for 20-odd years now. And in terms of, and then the second question that often people ask is how do you provide the long-term support, the merchandise support, and have people to contact us and stay in contact with us and so on. And our owner made the decision a long time ago that since we're out in the marketplace, we're visiting suppliers and sourcing new merchandise and negotiating the prices, because we need that information for every new store that we set up, because we provide the inventory as part of our package. And as long as we're doing all that work anyway, there was really no logical reason not to continue to provide that information to our existing stores. It involved a little bit more salary, not a lot, a couple extra people, but it enables us to give you, as a store owner, a great benefit in terms of getting the most up-to-date merchandise, the most up-to-date, information directly from us. So that's always been our business model from day one, and that is the short answer. It's actually kind of a long answer. I apologize, but does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah. If you don't mind disclosing, so what is the, I guess, initiation fee or like investment to start?
Okay, good question.
Besides the $500 and the application that you mentioned.
That is all it takes to get started. Once you get into finance, they will have you. They'll look at your credit profile, and then they'll put you in contact with the lenders best suited to work with your credit profile. And that is, we're kind of hands off on that. You're dealing directly with the lender. We can act as kind of an intermediary, but you're dealing directly with them and the lender. We're not a lender. So depending on the type of loan, there, like any other loan, there are some fees associated with them, and they vary by lender. And I don't have that information. Whatever I give you probably would be wrong anyway. But other than the $500, that's all you ever paid us. And with regards to that, if you decide not to go forward, or you can't get funding, or we can't find a suitable location that you like, or for any other reason, you just tell us, this isn't going to work out for me, or I'm not happy, just send me my deposit back. And we do it all the time. The other thing is that if you do end up developing a store, that $500 becomes part of the purchase price of your store. So you never lose it. It's never at risk.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good questions. Thank you. Next question. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yes. Your name is Mohammed, and I'm calling from the Ohio-Michigan border area.
Okay, very good.
I've got a question. Yeah, I have a question concerning advertising. When you first, on the grand opening, before the grand opening and during the grand opening, do you guys do any advertising for the neighborhoods where we open those stores? And the second question is concerning financing. If you're able to get your own funding, your own financing, how would that work?
Okay, good questions. First, with regards to the advertising, we don't do the advertising. It's not part of our package, Mohammed, but we do provide you with all the material to do that advertising. We spend a lot of time, for example, talking about social media, which is a very powerful form of advertising. I'm kind of an older generation guy, so I'm getting up to speed on all of that, but to set up a Facebook page, to have a Yelp presence, things like that, very, very important. And then, of course, we have all the templates for flyers and local newspaper ads and things of that nature, and we have guidelines for doing a grand opening if you choose to have one. So we provide all of that to you, but we don't actually do the advertising. Because the rates vary so much from one market to another, it would be impossible for us to come up with something that would work for everyone. And then the second question you had was regarding financing. And if you bring your own funds to the table, that's fine. It really just expedites the process. What we do is when you come on board, whether you need to do your own financing or you're going to do it through one of the lenders that we have, what we do is we sit down and you say, I want to do a 2,000 square foot store. So what we do is we put together a worksheet for you, and it shows the price of that store package, and then we estimate the other expenses that you probably are going to encounter. For example, first month's rent, 1 month security deposit sometimes, utility deposits, maybe a little bit of money for tenant improvements. Sometimes a landlord may say, I don't want to get involved in doing new flooring, but I'll give your tenant an allowance. If he does the flooring, then I'll reimburse him. Things like that. So we try and estimate what those expenses are, and we usually actually overestimate, quite honestly, because we want to make sure that you're in a good position when you move into real estate. So you'll have a really good picture of what the overall project can cost, both the package price and any related expenses that you may run into. But if you can do your own funding, that's great. It just expedites the process.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. You've been very helpful with those answers.
Thank you very much. Reach out to us anytime. Next question?
Hey, John.
Yes, sir.
Hey, this is Jason. I'm in North Carolina. My biggest question to you is I've looked at Dollar Store online. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Absolutely.
Okay. Been looking at Dollar Store online, and what I keep seeing pop up online, which contributes to what you kind of just brought up about how to start the Dollar Store location, if you will, or business. You can name it on your choice, but and I do understand that. But you had commented it was a $500 kind of deposit to get that moving forward. And then I'm sure you have to pay for your supplies and all that after all that gets set up. I would assume you pay that kind of, it shows up today, I've got to pay back within 30 days, number one. The second question I have is, what I keep seeing online is, for $85,000 is how I can start my own dollar store. So difference of $500,000 and $85,000 is obviously different, but those are my two questions.
Okay. Well, the $500 is the deposit that allows us to start working for you. You know, to get you through finance, to get you started in real estate and looking at locations and so forth. When you actually decide to go forward, if you're going to do that 1,000 square foot store, the cost of that is the $85,000. And that is everything that I talked about earlier. You might have missed the early part of the call, Jason, so I'll recap real quick for you. The store package includes...
I did hear that.
You did? Okay.
I heard you when we got started. I'm good on that. Yep.
Okay, good. So yeah, the package price of the store is determined by the size store that you want to develop. For example, in a dollar-only store, the 1,000 square foot is $82.9, the 1,500 square foot size is $97.9, and so on. And of course, the price goes up because there's more shelving, there's more merchandise, more labor, more freight, everything else. But does that kind of answer your question?
Yes, it does, absolutely. My next question was, when I buy supplies to get all this started, and I understand it costs money to get it started, but when I buy all the supplies, you know, the paper towels, you know, whatever else is there to move in to sell, how quick do I pay that back to Dollar Store or what other supplies I bought this from? I'm assuming 30 days.
Yeah, that's a fair statement. Most of course, the opening inventory is part of your package, so that's already paid for. But as you're rebuying merchandise, each supplier is a little bit different, and you know it takes usually a couple of rounds of orders to establish credit. What a lot of our owners do, and quite honestly, what I did for years, Jason, when I had my stores, is I would pay for my merchandise using a credit card, because that gave me 30 days dating basically, because I had 30 days before I had to pay that credit card bill. It worked out the best for me, and then over time I was able to establish credit with some of the different vendors, suppliers, and usually then it's net 30, yeah.
I'm with you. I thought the same thing. I thought that was my question, so we're good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jason. You have a great evening. Next question?
Hello, this is Reginald in Alabama.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I got a couple for you.
Fire away.
Okay, basic, just an estimate of payoff or break-even time. You know, when you open a store and go through finance, it's going to take a certain amount of time, you know, to be profitable and to pay off your fee or the cost.
Sure, your loan and whatever.
Dollar. Yeah.
Sure.
So that time also, and this is, you might not have the answer for it, but the basic cost, do you have a cost range? Say, at least, I'm in Alabama, I heard the other gentleman in North Carolina. Say in the Southeast, do you have an ideal of what the basic monthly expenses are? a price range.
Okay.
And
yes.
And third, so break even, basic monthly fee. Is it 5,000? Is it 8,000? Whatever the fee. Another question is, I got 4 questions. I'll just tell you. So another question is, once you're running, and you can see things, what about a second location? Maybe you know of an area. It doesn't take a really big store for it, but you can see, once you can see your store doing it, like, hey, I could put a little one over there 40 miles away, and it will thrive. And then my 4th question is, and I've heard you say it a few times, when you owned dollar stores, so my question is, why do you no longer own dollar stores?
Okay, all good questions. Let's start with the first one. You're asking about, how long does it take basically to retire your debt, and that's going to be a function first of sales. Generally speaking, I would anticipate paying off that initial debt 3 to 4 years, maybe, Reginald. And again, it's going to vary a little bit, but the stores tend to go into the plus in terms of monthly income versus expenses, including your loan and debt payments, pretty quickly. Normally in the first 3 to 4 months, because as I mentioned briefly earlier, these stores jump off the starting line pretty aggressively. People know what you are, they know what you have, so that's a big advantage in our business. The next question you had was
basic monthly
expenses. That's a hard number to come to, obviously, because your rent, number one, is going to vary. But it is certainly a good question to ask, and let me address it this way. Well, part of our process is, once you're in real estate and we're identifying locations and we're negotiating on them, when we get to the final set of numbers, we know everything there's to know about the location, where it is, who the competitors are, where they're located, who your co-tenants are in the center, what the final rent is going to be, how much free rent you're getting, and so on. Then I can actually kind of sit down and do a worksheet with you, if you would like, that we can put a pretty good point on the estimated expenses, and then also the potential for revenue for that specific location, and then kind of do like a thumbnail profit and loss statement. So before you ever sign a lease, we want to make sure that the numbers they're certainly not a guarantee, but they can be pretty darn close to what your expectation can be. Okay, so that, and then you had a question on second location, and that's always a good opportunity. And as you say, the first thing to do is get your first store open, really get your arms around the business and understand it, and then you can start to determine, what might be a good location for a second store. Maybe there's another good opportunity in the community that you're in now. You can start to build a brand for yourself. Or like you say, maybe there's another community that's maybe underserved and it's 15, 20 miles away. Why not do that, So yeah, and we can help you with that. And of course, we always apply a discount for second stores because there's things you don't need. You don't need the supplier network there where you have it and so forth. So we can be pretty aggressive in costing out that second and third store for you.
Okay. All right. And the 4th question, I got one more. I'd like that, but the 4th question was, why do you no longer own stores?
Okay, good question. And actually, the primary reason was that as my children got older, I wanted to spend more and more time with them. And I had 3 children and 2 bonus children, so they kept me fairly busy. But the other big determining factor was I got a really nice offer to sell a number of them, and so I did that. It was like I love the business. I've always been in, as I mentioned earlier, discount retail, going all the way back to the Woolworth Company, if you're old enough to remember them. So it's all I've ever done. and I liked it. And actually, my kids, as they were growing up, worked in their preteens, worked in the stores on the weekends. I got a lot of free labor, but that was really the reason. You know, I just really was kind of ready to move on to something else. I wanted to spend a little bit more time at home as my kids were getting older, and I got a very attractive offer to sell a number of them, so I did.
Okay. All right, and the question I would like to add is there a policy, say if you have a box truck already or sprinter vans or means of picking up supplies from, say, one or two of the suppliers?
Absolutely, you can do that.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, if it makes, in other words, if the distance is such that it makes good sense for you to do that, absolutely. Yeah, and it can save you some money too. We had a store years ago. He had one of these. It was a horse trailer. It was like a 6-horse trailer, and and he would go around to suppliers in Southern California because his store was in Central California. So he'd drive down and go to 5 or 6 vendors, just load up that trailer, and then haul it back up north. So yeah, absolutely, you can do that.
Okay.
Very good. Reginald, thank you for your questions. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
Yes, sir.
Next question.
Hi, Don. I have one more. How much would you say in the range of like for an initial budget, right, to open like your first not super big store, right, but just like a reasonable size? How much would you say that would? What would the cost range be?
Okay, let's take a 1,000 square foot dollar store priced at $82,900. Okay, what I normally estimate is that you should have about an additional 20% of that package price available to you. So let's take that $82,900. You should have about another $15,000 or $16,000 available to you for those other expenses that I mentioned, those startup expenses like rent deposits and things like that. So if you're going to do that 1,000 square foot store, I'd say you need between $95,000 and $100,000 total. And most often, our lenders can get you all or most of that.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much. Next question.
Yes,
yes, go ahead, sir. Hello?
Yeah, this is Kevin. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Okay. So say if I only need half the financing, is that doable? Say if at a $5,000 store, I got some own means, I only need half the money, is that doable?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Or if you have 10 or 15 or 20,000, whatever you want to bring to the table is great. If you can borrow a little bit less, have a little bit less debt to service, that's always a good advantage. So.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Yes, somebody else had a question, I think.
Yes, this is Mohammed again. I want to ask a question concerning running stores that you guys already opened up around the country.
Yes.
Do you have a department that offers any sales of those particular stores that are already open?
We're not a franchise, Mohammed, so we don't require our owners to report that information. We get some of it anecdotally, and I can sometimes tell by purchases kind of about what a store is doing, but unlike a franchise, we don't require our stores to share that information with us, and so they don't.
Got it. Thank you so much. I do appreciate it again.
Thank you again, sir. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you all again very much for taking the time this evening. As I said, I know it's a very busy time of year, and I appreciate the time you gave to me this evening. Hopefully you got some benefit and some good information from it. Reminder again, if you do decide to go forward and you do your deposit and application by next Wednesday, you do have the ability to take advantage of that $1,000 in additional free merchandise when you open your store. If you have questions, please be sure and contact your sales representative. Their name should have been on the email that you received. You can always call me as well. My direct line here is 702-637-3389. And don't hesitate to call me anytime. If you miss me, leave a message, and I will call you right back. And again, thank you all for...
I have a question.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Can I ask this question before? I'm Mary. I'm from South Carolina.
Yes, Mary.
How many stores are you planning to open in 2022?
Well, that's kind of up to you. Only because we don't plan to open any specific amount of stores. You know, our business is all driven by people that come to us and want to open stores. I would anticipate we'd probably open next year probably about 60 stores, something like that.
All right. So you got 60 commitments right now.
Well, we have more than that. We have in real estate right now. I think we have about 35 or 40 people that we're actively looking for locations for, and then we've got another 100 or two in finance that are chugging through the finance program. So, you know, some of them have things they have to clean. Yeah, it's an incredible business. We've been hitting those numbers pretty consistently for quite some time. It's an exciting business to get in. It's an affordable business to get in. It's easy to run, and it's fun to run. And yeah, so you know, let's make you one of them next year.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Have a good night.
Take care now. Bye bye. All right. Well, thank you all very much. Yes, your question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is Reginald.
Oh no, don't be sorry.
One more.
Okay.
Okay, one more question, and I'll let you say good evening. What if, now I don't have it, but what if you already have your own 1,000 or 1,500 square foot space? What if you already own it?
Okay.
What is the difference as far as, you know, that fee, you know, that we're going to finance for?
It's a very good question. If you were to come to us with your own location, whether it's one you're leasing or one you own, then of course we wouldn't have to do that real estate work. So you'd get a credit of, I believe it's $2,000 off of the price because we don't have to do that site and negotiation work. And the other big advantage is that it allows you to get your store open more quickly because it shortens that process by 30 to 45 days.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, and that often happens. You know, I've got a number of people that I'm working with right now, but every year that either have a building that they own or they've got a lease for business and they want to change the use in that location to a dollar type store. Well, it happens a lot of different ways. We've got a client we're working with right now that had a piece of property and it was a very rural area, but there's a lot of opportunity there. So they're actually building a steel building from the ground up, and they're going to open a 4,000 square foot store in it. So yeah, absolutely, we can do that, and there are some advantages and certainly some savings for you.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Reginald. Any questions, give me a call anytime, okay?
Okay, will do.
Thank you. Thank you all. Again, have a great evening. If you have questions, again, call your store development sales representative on the email or call me, again, at 702-637-3389. And I want to wish everybody a wonderful holiday season. Try and relax, enjoy, and if you're ready to go, let's get your app in by next Wednesday. Let's make 2022 all of our best year coming. Thank you all. Have a good evening.